Nick fullback's great again.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. Draft Digest. The sickest NFL draft and scouting podcast. It's gonna be sick.
Welcome into the Sick Podcast here with Draft Digest. A little bit of a rebrand to the show. Welcome, please, Emily Van Buskirk. Very happy to have you joining the show. I want to hand over the introductory duties to you from this point out. So first off, to all the listeners that listened to the show before, same great content, same great stuff coming. A little bit of a different edition that's going to help us. I think we're going to grow a lot. Emily's got a lot in her arsenal that she's really good with. We were talking about the fullback. That's how I really know Emily, is make fullbacks great again. Emily, thank you for joining the show, and we're excited to have you. I think this is going to be really fun. And why don't you introduce yourself to the listeners a little bit who might not know about you yet?
Absolutely. Thank you guys so much for bringing me into this. I miss podcasting so very much. So when you messaged me, it was like a sign from above. I was thinking about getting back into it. And this was just a godsend. So I'm so happy to be here. I got to tell you that NFL chime is going to give me a little bit of PTSD after the draft because sound has been haunting my dreams for the last couple of days, but I think I'll get used to it in time. A little bit about, I'll just give like a brief synopsis, but basically I've been working in the sports industry for 12 years now. I'm a writer, so I started on the writing side, and I really started in college basketball, but I transitioned to college football, and that's kind of where I found a home over the past 5 or 6 years. I've also covered hockey. I worked in baseball. I've done all of the things, and I work in golf as well. So it's a gamut of sports, but now I'm writing for Sports Illustrated. I do long form features. So I spend a lot of time with the guys that I write about, which is fun for draft stuff because when your favorite team drafts a player, I probably know a little bit about him that you might not. So I'm just excited to be here and excited to see how our conversations go. If we both, I mean, if you love fullbacks, we'll get along, but we'll see what else we can agree on.
Fullbacks, H-backs, big slots, give them all to me. Let's go. Yeah, so the one thing too that I think a lot of people miss especially from the media side, because it's a lot harder from the media side, but the part of the biggest part of the evaluation for a lot of players is the background check. Um, how do you, how are these guys mentally made up?
Yeah.
You being so close to a lot of these guys really helps bring some insight, I think, into that. That's not to take away from what you already know about the game. You know a lot about football already. So that addition by itself, this is a no-brainer. So I'm really happy to have you. I think this is going to be a lot of fun.
It's going to be fun for sure.
You were at the draft in Green Bay. So let's talk about that a little bit. How did the draft go? And what was that experience like in Green Bay, Wisconsin?
Yeah, I'd never been to Green Bay. Everyone said that, you're going to love it. Everybody's really nice. And they were absolutely accurate. The people were phenomenal. They were very welcoming. When we got to the airport and, stepped off the plane, there was a welcome committee, which I had never seen in all of the drafts I've covered, Nashville, Vegas, Kansas City, Detroit, all these drafts. I'd never seen a welcome committee at the airport handing out cheese curds and welcome goodie bags full of things you might need during your time in Green Bay. So that was a really fun kind of element that they added. So shout out to the people of Green Bay because they did incredible. But this scene, as you saw on TV, the draft theater was amazing. They really incorporated a lot of the Green Bay color scheme and the history of the team into it. And having the red carpet on the sideline at Lambeau Field, I'm sorry, it's a green carpet is what they were calling it. That was incredible. I think having fans being able to sit in the stands at Lambeau and watch these players on the green carpet added an element that I hadn't really seen at other drafts. So while Nashville will always be my favorite, this is definitely one where the NFL worked really hard to make it unique experience, and they definitely pulled that off. So,
Well, Pittsburgh's got the bar set very high. next
They
year.
do. And they actually had their committee there at the draft scouting. So you're talking about doing scouting. They sent their whole Pittsburgh NFL draft committee there, and they were scouting out how Green Bay did it and what they can replicate in Pittsburgh. So I think we're going to see a lot of the same elements, incorporating the field and the stadium and all of that when it goes to Pittsburgh next year. So
Awesome. Awesome.
yeah.
Well, we had an exciting 3 days in the draft, did we not? That was
Yes.
one of the most unique drafts I think I've seen. Probably
That's a
one of the
nice
one of
way.
these
Unique is nice. I would say weird. I would
you-
say uncomfortable a little bit.
very well. If you were watching ESPN, I think it was very uncomfortable at times. I, I didn't until after Shador was drafted, and then I was like, okay, I think it's safe now. We can put that on.
You were
Um,
smart.
it was NFL Network all the way.
Nice.
So I think one of the things that really stunk about this draft is typically the first overall pick. That's the story of the draft. You know,
Mhm.
you go first overall. You're selected by the worst team in the league. You're going to be the savior coming in. That's kind of the story that's always around the first
Yeah.
overall pick. And Cam Ward is surprisingly the least talked
Top.
about first overall pick I've seen since the dark ages of the draft before it was on TV and everybody was talking about it all year.
It was bizarre. And you got to kind of feel bad. It's hard to feel bad for these guys. Having covered college football, for as long as I have and seen the big changes that came these last few years, there's not a lot I feel bad for these top guys for because they are making more money than most of their offensive coordinators. And that is not a joke. That is
Yeah.
actually true, which is crazy to me that that's where we are. So I don't feel overly bad for most of them. But Cam Ward, literally, we didn't really see him on the red carpet. He didn't really do too many interviews, which I don't know if that was by design or not. And then when he came into the green room after to kind of talk to people, it was like people ask him questions, but it was not what you would expect in other first round picks where I've seen, the media clamoring to interview him, talk to him. It was not like a frenzy at all. I would say Ashton Jeanty had more buzz around him and media stuff than Cam Ward did, which was so weird to see.
Yeah, and the story of Cam Ward by
Mhm.
itself, I think, really speaks volumes to even why we haven't talked about it more. We're talking about a 0-star prospect who
Mhm.
went to Incarnate Word, put up huge production there for 2 years, transfers to Washington State, puts up the production there for 2 years, and then transfers to Miami,
Yeah.
and puts up the production.
Mhm.
In Miami, you following college football, you know that they're not a very great. They haven't been great the last several years.
They've been struggling to find their identity again within a head coach, I think is the best way to put it.
Yeah, yeah, and they sort of still live in the glory days of the early
Mhm.
2000s, when they had that massive success with that legendary team.
Yeah.
And this is the closest this year that they really came over the last 20 years to really matching that intensity, that energy again.
Mhm.
Um, and we haven't talked about them at all. Now, from on the football field, I there's a lot of stuff to like about Cam.
Mhm.
He plays super loose, reminds you a lot of the way that Mahomes kind of plays the game. Not to pull that same comp out that people constantly bring, but that's the way he kind of plays. Mahomes has that loose, anything goes, almost
Yeah.
backyard style, and that's kind of how Cam plays the game. And he's got the good arm, and he's going to make some wow throws. He made some of the best throws that we've seen in this entire class. Um, and
I think it's
he's a
a
good
confidence
athlete.
too, don't you think? Like, and to go from the journey he made, like you just said, to go from Washington State to Miami, that is a kind of confidence that you can't teach. You got to be
Yeah.
born with that kind of confidence. And I think that's what you see in him and Patrick Mahomes and those kind of guys is this kind of easy natured confidence that they just know they can do it. There was no doubt
And
for him.
yeah, that's why he takes the place that he does. And that's the point. That's
Mhm.
also some of the stuff that you don't like, right? Where okay, he's going to force a throw across his body over the middle of the field late. And sometimes those get picked off, you know? The thing is the mistakes that he made in college, he always seemed to have an answer. He came back the next drive and answered for it, made up for it. And so that's the
Mhm.
mentality that you hope that he keeps going into the league. Um, is that he maintains that sort of, because I worry about him getting hit a couple times and still
Mhm.
having that confidence. When you get your crap rocked out of you by TJ Watt flying off the edge at 265, 270 pounds, uh, how do you handle that? After you take that two or three times, um, that's what I'm gonna be looking for. I
Yeah.
think if he could sit for a year, I'd like it a lot better. I don't think he's in a position to do that.
Yeah.
Not with Will Levis on. I don't think anybody wants to roll Will Levis out for another year in Tennessee, uh, especially if the coaching staff is potentially on the line. I mean, this has been a very volatile front office in Tennessee with, John Robinson was the GM there 3 years ago. Rand Carthen was the GM there last year. This is a new head coach now, going into his second year, but second GM already. That since he's been there, they've been kind of playing musical chairs between those two positions, and I think that's all of that culminates in Brian Callahan's job's on the line, and he's going to have to play Cam Ward pretty much immediately.
Yeah, I think he can do it. I mean, I understand the concern, and I tell everybody that it's so much faster. Like everyone's like, "Oh, this guy's great. He's going to be phenomenal in the NFL." Okay, guy, calm down because yes, there is talent that transitions very well, but there's a lot that doesn't because it is so much faster. And it may not seem that way, but these guys are bigger, they're faster, they're stronger, and there's a reason that sometimes it doesn't pan out. But he strikes me as a guy that is versatile enough that he'll be able to figure it out. He seems pretty savvy, so I don't have anywhere. You wouldn't want to start and have to deal with all the things he's going to have to deal with immediately. Obviously, you'd love some time to kind of settle in, learn some things, get your feet wet. But I think he'll be okay. It's going to be fun to watch. That's for sure. It'll be interesting.
No, and they added some weapons. They
Mhm.
brought in some people to protect him. In fact, that's one of my underrated guys in this entire class. Their fifth round pick out of Sacramento State, Jackson Slater.
Jackson, I
That's
love him.
one of my favorite guys. So, little backstory on Jackson. I don't think I've ever said this on this show. Um, I was working for Young Money at the time, and I was essentially one of these runners, a scout runner. And I wanted this guy when I put on the tape last summer. Actually, it was last spring. It was I saw him in March of last year. And physical, comes straight off the line of scrimmage, great first step, attacking, aggressive mentality, just putting people in their place. And so Levi Drake Rodriguez was drafted by the Minnesota Vikings in the seventh round out of Texas A&M Commerce last year. They played Sacramento State, and when I was
Mhm.
talking to him, I'm like, "Hey, what's the toughest guy you've ever gone against?" So without question, without hesitation, he's like Jackson Slater. Those Sacramento State guys, they're different. And I'm like, "Yeah, that's what I thought." And started talking to a lot of other people. Um, it took me 2 months to even get a phone call with him to get the okay to get a phone call.
Wait, with
'Cause-
Jackson?
well, it wasn't Jackson's fault; it was Young Money's fault. They wouldn't let me do it because he
Oh,
was at Sacramento State. And so
because they were
we
saying
sat
that that's
down.
like because that team's too what?
Well, that's the thing. That's the thing. It's a small school. You look at his measurables. He was 6'3", 290, and they were like, I don't know about that. And but we finally got on the phone with him. He was great. Awesome guy. He's going to come in here. I think the fifth round. Things can go sideways in Tennessee this year on that offensive line,
Yeah.
and he's got a good shot to slide into that right guard spot.
That's so funny that you bring him up because I know he was at the combine and I was texting with him prior to that, trying to set up an interview. I didn't make it to the combine, unfortunately. I still have yet to ever cover a combine. I don't know why it's so elusive to me. I just never, Indy's like hard to get to. I don't know. So I've never been, but I texted him. I was so happy for him. And you love to see a school like Sac State putting guys like that into the league. It
Yeah.
adds so much legitimacy to their program. Sac State had very high hopes for their head coach at Stanford. Obviously, very unfortunate situation that transpired, but it doesn't take away from what he did there and built that program there into what it is. And it's great. But it's funny that you say him because right above him, my guy, Alec Iwinner, love. I'm so excited that the Titans got him. He people, to be fair, Stanford was terrible. So like I understand not really knowing too much about him, but he was the one bright spot at Stanford these last
Yeah.
few years. He's an
Yeah.
incredibly talented guy. He's so quick, he's so shifty, he's so has like a second nature to find the ball, and he's just always open. It's wild. There were times when Stanford's quarterback, whoever it was at the time, would throw the ball and you would shut your eyes because you're like, this is trash. But then Alec would come down with it. So I'm so excited that he's going to be there. And I think having guys like that on the team is going to be fun to watch the Titans. I might become a Titans fan. I don't know. We'll see.
Hey, the producers would love that. They'd be very excited about that. Bring another Titan fan in the fold.
We'll
Um,
see.
the Yeah, I liked him a lot too. I had a second to third round grade on him.
Nice.
Just a very crafty possession receiver, and
Mm-hmm.
you always have a role for that kind of a guy.
Yeah.
You
And
go
he's a
back and
Stanford guy, so
especially
he's smart, you know.
very smart Canadian. That's another thing about him too that I don't think a lot of people realize he's from Canada.
Yes.
So this pipeline continues to grow of the Canadian prospects into the NFL with Ellick. Now, one of the other things too to get into with this draft, I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on it, but I think that the media did a great disservice to about 141 players in this class. Um, because the entire story up until the 142nd overall selection was why hasn't Shador Sanders been picked yet?
Yeah.
Um, we talked about Cam Ward. We just brought up a couple other guys that were drafted before him as well, and maybe Slater. Slater, I think, might have
Like,
been
how
after
hard
him,
was
but
that?
still.
How hard was it for us to talk about other players? It was that easy. It went from like, oh, Sac State, Stanford. How hard is it to bring up other guys besides you know who? I'm going to say like Voldemort's name. I'm not going to say it. It's you know who. That's that you know who. I'll leave that to you.
Well,
You can say it.
I think the media really did a disservice, and I was
Mhm.
joking about the not watching ESPN because understanding that Mel Kiper was going to go on his little rants and stuff.
Yeah, he
Um,
did. He did. He needed. I saw him at the airport when I first got there, and he was already in need of blood pressure medication. Like it was.
it
I.
goes back to that. What's that? The Frank Caliendo that does all the impressions, and he did
Yeah.
the had the Mel Kiper like 10 years ago, the expert on coffee with his coffee big board and stuff. That's
Oh
Mel
my
Kiper.
God. Yes. Yeah.
That but I think it was disheartening at times to
Yeah.
see. Not just obviously the Shador story. I understand the Shador story is big. You have, a guy that a lot of people projected in the first round. He's going down into the fifth round. You're wondering how far is he going to fall. Um, the question I think we have to ask ourselves on the media side of things is how did this happen? First
Mhm.
off, we set the expectations. So we set them way too high. We probably bought into some of the hype that Colorado and everybody there was selling.
Not all of
Um,
us, but yes, a lot of people did, but not all of us.
no, obviously not all of us, and I said a lot through the cycle as well. He's a third round tape, you know.
Yeah.
That's really
Whoever
what you're
was
looking
saying
at.
that he was first round is, I mean, that's crazy to me. And the fact that that was the narrative going in was the
Mhm.
insane part. If we had just been honest about what we see on the film and what we know of him to be as a person and a player, as much as we know, if we were honest about that as media, then okay, then this wouldn't have been such a shock. But I will, to your counter your point a little bit, say that yes, media has to be responsible, but I think a lot of people are also afraid of Deion Sanders. I'm not afraid in the sense for their life,
Yeah.
but for their professional life, because he has shut out reporters in Colorado. So people don't want to say bad things about that, especially if he's going to be continuing to coach and be a part that we have to deal with. Nobody really wants to cross that person, you know? So I think it was hard a little bit to be as truthful as you wanted to be, you know? And I still am careful with what I say because I don't want to get blackballed, but
Did you
I do.
did you see those lights flicker behind me? Like when you started talking about
No,
Dion? Like what on
no, oh
earth was that?
no, oh no, what's happening?
They've already, man, we haven't even put this thing out and they're coming for us.
Yeah,
Uh,
you have to
but
be
no, I
careful.
think that I want to use this as an example for the upcoming cycle that we're going to spend weeks, months talking about here in the very near future. Right now, the projection is Arch Manning is going to be the number one prospect.
Mhm.
Let's not do the same thing to Arch Manning that we just did to Shador. Okay. Let's pump the brakes a little bit. He started 3 games in college, and yes, he's a Manning. Uh, let's not do this again. Let's wait. Let's let the season play. Let's evaluate the film when it comes in, and let's not set these expectations for these guys so unreasonably that they can't be met. And avoid this type of storyline from happening again next year and the year after that.
I agree with you. And I don't think we'll have the same problem with Arch. In all of my dealings with him and with his family, it's
Mhm.
a little bit different, or a lot different, I would say, to be fair. But it is interesting you say that because we are already getting hashtags March for Arch. What are
Mhm.
we doing? The season has not even started. These guys have to go through so much. I never understood 2026 draft talk right now. And I know we have to get into it for the show, which is fine by me, but this college football season is long. And with the change in the conferences and the way that the players are making money, there's so many things that can happen between now and, January of next year. So it's wild to me. Like, can't we just enjoy the fact that these young men just achieved their dream 2 days ago
Yeah.
and just be happy for that before we go down
Yeah. Hey,
another?
look. Yeah, you're not going to hear any complaints from me. We're not doing any way too early mock drafts on over here.
Okay,
We don't
good.
even know who's picking yet. How can we do a mock draft? That's
We don't
all
even know the NFL
thrown
schedule
in.
for the next year. So what are we doing?
Right. There's no way. There's no way to know, who's picking next. So yeah, the most of the summer, we're going to spend a lot of time kind of rehashing and evaluating the process. Okay,
Awesome.
like to talk about the position groups, things that we're looking for. Maybe that's when you leak in a few guys. Hey, these guys are some dudes to keep an eye on because
Yeah, of
they're
course.
really good at these couple things that we're talking about.
Well, don't worry.
Um,
I will be doing my preseason fullbacks to watch in college football list that is anticipated by nobody, but I will do it because there are college football fullbacks to watch going into next year, and there were fullbacks
well,
drafted. So I
if
just want
you if you don't have CJ Donaldson at the top of that list, we might have to have a conversation.
I haven't finalized the order of the list yet. We'll talk about it, but people are
Don't put
surprised.
Shield Taylor up there, okay? Don't put him up there. I know that you like Stanford over there. No.
No,
CJ
it's
Donaldson.
usually it's gonna go probably to a Navy fullback. Maybe I'm not. I'm still
Good
working on
spot,
it.
yeah. Alex
There's
Texa.
Alex is great. I love him. Yeah, so we'll see. The Navy usually, Army has them, Navy has them. There'll be a few, but I'm excited for this list. But I feel you on being able to talk about guys to watch, so that's going to be a fun part for me. So I'm excited for that.
Absolutely. Now, you also talked a little bit before we were recording about Ashton Jeanty.
Mm.
And I think the Jeanty, we're bringing the running back position back. So that's a good sign for the fullback position as well.
Hmm.
This guy, obvious, clear number one running back in this class. A little bit of an outlier with the measurables and the way that obviously he didn't run his 40. We don't know exactly what it is. We can guesstimate and say, yeah, it's probably going to be a sub 4.5 40, which with his size at 6'5" or 5'8.5" and 216 pounds would be
He's 5'9".
unprecedented.
He's 5'9". Just he's 5'9".
Sure, yeah, in sneakers. Uh, the that would be an unprecedented type speed to size profile,
Yeah.
which is lines up with everything that you see on tape with him. So a little bit him at a little more personal level. So talk to the Raiders fans out there, the Silva and the Black, what exactly it is that's coming in there to that organization.
I could not be more thrilled for Raider Nation. And having been grown up Raider Nation, but strayed away a little bit because of we feel a little betrayed. I'm in the Bay Area and now they're in Vegas. So it doesn't feel like mine anymore. But I'm thrilled for the Silver and Black because not only did they get one of the best college football players I've ever seen in my time covering college football. They got an incredible human being. And that's something I feel like the Raiders can really benefit from, is a very wholesome kind of guy. I mean, he is so good for every community that he steps foot in, that he's going to come in to Las Vegas and just, he's going to become the most likable guy there, which I don't know if that's that hard. I don't know too much about the guys on the team or and whatnot, but Ashton Jeanty is a stand-up guy. And I think we saw that in everything that he did at Boise. Not only did this young man not really participate in NIL more so than the collective, but he left a scholarship in his name. There's an Ashton Jeanty scholarship for a football player. He raised over $500,000 almost. Definitely close to $500,000 for this, so that he could leave a legacy for the next generation. And I think that's, I mean, how do you, like, what else can you say for somebody that wants to leave someplace better than they found it? So when he comes into Las Vegas, they're getting a guy that's just a bruiser. They're getting a guy that is actually very fast. They're going to get a guy that's scary for opposing defenses. The way he stands in the backfield, just straight up and down. If you haven't seen it, Google the film of it. It's terrifying. It is literally what nightmares are made of. He stands back there like Michael Myers. And if that doesn't scare you, just seeing a running back stand straight up, I don't know what else will. So he's just going to be so good for their offense to make it dynamic. You can put him in any situation. He even had 2 solo tackles when he was at Boise State, because he can play defense. He can literally do anything. So I'm very excited. For them. His journey's been great too. So if you want to read more about it, definitely Google Ashton, because he's someone people should get to know.
The interesting thing about him too was he was the catalyst for me. You see every year, when the Blesto and NFS grades get leaked, and you can spot it to the day. Because there are certain players that no one was talking about at certain schools, at smaller schools, that all of a sudden everybody's talking about across NFL media. Ashton Jeanty was that guy last year where it came out, nobody's talking about him. The Blesto list gets leaked. They see the second round grade on him and they go, "Oh, this guy at Boise State is incredible. Wow, he's amazing." So coming in the year, my questions with him were, okay, is he a straight up runner, or can he do a little bit more? Is he a passer? Is he a pass protector? Those are the questions that I kind of had. And I was watching that Oregon game, like most of us brave college fans that live on the East Coast, staying up late for that game after that day of college football. Very difficult, but we did it. And I'm sitting there, I've got it. It was on Peacock too when they played Oregon. So
yeah.
Didn't have a smart TV at the time, so I've got my iPad sitting there and I'm watching it, and I'm going, this guy is absolutely incredible. He's selling me as they were going. And then third quarter, I think about 8:50 to play in the game, he lines up out wide. And I'm like, oh, this ought to be good. And he runs a go down the sideline. He gets all the way down the sideline, and they throw him a ball. Max puts it too far out of bounds. And he goes up. I think Jabbar Muhammad was all over him and comes down with the freaking catch. Not in bounds, of course, but he comes down with a catch 40 yards down the field with a defender draped all over him. And I went, oh, he can catch. Look at that.
He can catch. So, and he changed the culture in the locker room at Boise State. I think when he came in, it was a freak of nature. Their strength and conditioning said that he just pushed everyone to be stronger. He's one of the strongest people. I mean, Google him without his shirt on. It's wild, but he is just super, super strong kid. And that's why you throw the ball up, he will come down with it. I've absolutely no doubt. I would bet on him in literally any situation. But if you're putting up 200 yards almost on Oregon, 3 touchdowns, like how you're not winning the Heisman, I do not understand. He should have won the Heisman. That is, I will die on that hill.
He was so much fun to watch this year. We were blessed and privileged to get to see another wonderful running back like him, and you're going to see a good career out of him with the Raiders. I have no doubt about that. I think that's a really good spot for him from a scheme standpoint as well. You got Pete Carroll coming in. They're going to lean on the running game a lot, especially bringing in Geno Smith, the quarterback this year. So we'll see what that looks like. Anything else before we wrap this up? Because we're hitting the 30-minute mark just about now.
Pretty good.
This thing always
Thank you.
flies. Always flies. Is
I
there
will just
anything
say
else that
this.
you want to put out there?
Yeah, I'll just say this really quickly about, because we're talking about Boise State. There was another young man that was drafted out of there by the name of Ahmed Hassanin. And
Mm-hmm.
people may not be super familiar with him, but you will know his name. I had the pleasure of meeting him last year during the off season and doing a feature on him. I met, his brother. I was able to talk to his sister. He's from Egypt. He's the first Egyptian NFL player to be drafted. It's an incredible
Yep.
story that he lived in Cairo till he was, 10 years old or 15 years old. And he comes to the US, never played football, gets recruited during COVID because his brother and Spencer Danielson knew each other by chance from playing. It's an incredible story. And it's the kind of thing that when you saw this young man's dream comes true, that has to be why we do this. I mean, at the end of the day, that was just, he's one of my favorite guys. And now this is the second NFL historical story I've been a part of. The first one was Trey McBride, who was the first NFL player to be drafted with lesbian parents, who was raised by two women. So I did a big story on that. And Trey is having a great year, a great career.
Mm-hmm.
Proud to see Ahmed be drafted. I think he's going to be so fun to watch with the Lions. And I actually texted one of the Lions coaches and I was like, you're getting a good one here. And then he texted me back and was like, oh, we also got a fullback. And I was like, what? So that was sideways. I just want to shout out Ahmed because he's such a beast. He's one of the most physical players I've ever seen. And I'm just happy that, and then he proposed to his girlfriend right after. It was like, I was crying.
Relentless motor.
Yes.
Perfect Lions pick for that
Yes.
defensive line. Perfect
So
Lions pick. The only thing I want to do before we get out of here is I want to shout out, just because we talked about Jackson Slater and we spent some good time on Sacramento State, former podcast host here, Mark Jarvis, who's now working in the personnel department at Sacramento State. He's killing it. I don't know if anybody keeps up with recruiting. I try to. I'm not great at it. I mean, you're trying to balance college and the NFL, and then high school on top. High school is obviously the least priority there. They right now, I believe, have the 17th ranked recruiting class in the class of 26. At Sacramento State next year, they'll make the jump. They'll be in the FBS. They will be independent. So fun stuff going on over there. Jackson Slater, definitely not going to be the last guy that we're going to be talking about out of Sacramento State. There's a lot of talent that's going through there that are going to be coming out next. And that's exciting for everybody involved over there. Absolutely. Yeah, and there we go. Draft Digest is off and running, finally. Emily, again, thank you for joining us on the show. I do want to hand these duties over to you to dictate this thing. I think you're a little more natural at it. I'm more of a, hey, let's all have fun and chill out. That's the idea. Yeah. Talk football, have fun.
And run the damn ball.
Run power often.
Yeah.
Or Shane, and I see Jimmy's popped in here too. I guess Jimmy had to come meet our new talent as well. Guys, we'll talk to you soon. Probably going to be a once a week thing as we get through the summer. Get into more 2 times a week as we get into the season and get things into a rhythm. But for everybody at the Sick Network, for Emily, for myself, guys, have a great night wherever you're listening, whenever you're listening. This has been the Sick Podcast Draft Digest. Shane, get us out of here.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast Draft Digest on YouTube, X, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.